All right, guys, so this is the last one of virtual lessons for this week. We have talked about the end of Reconstruction. We talked about Reconstruction in South Carolina. And today what we're going to talk about is disenfranchisement. So your essential question today is, was Reconstruction a success or a failure? And then, of course, you got to tell me why, you got to tell me how, whether it was a success, whether it was a failure. Disenfranchisement, well, you guys know that's going to be a vocabulary word. Disenfranchisement means to take the rights away from someone. So with Reconstruction, we spent a lot of time giving rights to people. Now we're going to take them all away. After the Compromise of 1877, martial law being removed, the South starts going through the process of disenfranchisement. Just as the period of Reconstruction helped the lower class whites, the era of disenfranchisement also affects the lower class whites. The upper class whites are wanting to get all the power back for themselves. They're also afraid that the lower class whites might join forces with the African Americans and take over the government. So new state constitutions are created in the southern states. In South Carolina, we make the Constitution of 1895. So the Constitution of 1868 gave rights to African Americans. Constitution of 1895 pretty much reverses everything that has been done. There are things that are put in place, such as a good character clause. Good character clause said that the only people that could vote are people with good character. So one way that you got good character was if you ever fought in the Civil War. You obviously have good character. If you fought in the war for the South, that is, if you were a Confederate. Another way you could get good character, or pretty much the only other way you could get good character, is if two people who had good character said you had good character. So that pretty much eliminates all African American votes from South Carolina. They also put in place the 8-box law. The 8-box law, there were 8 boxes. And you had to put your ballot in the correct box, and they were labeled. So if you couldn't read, you don't know which box to put your ballot in, it's going to go in the wrong box, then your vote doesn't count. They also made interracial marriage illegal. So if you're 1/8 black, you were considered black. You're not allowed to marry a white person. And it demanded segregation in schools. Good character clause, like we said, if you fought in the Civil War for the Confederacy, you got it. Testimony from 2 citizens that had good character, you automatically get it as well. In addition, there's a list of crimes that can disqualify you from ever being able to vote. Adultery, bigamy, which means being married to more than one person, rape, and theft were all crimes that would disqualify you from voting. So if you cheat on your husband or wife, if you're married to more than one husband or wife, if you rape someone, or if you've ever stolen, you can't vote. Now, the reason they chose these crimes is these were crimes that statistically at that point in time, according to the statistics they had then, were committed more often by African Americans than white people. So they're specifically targeting African Americans. However, if you committed the crime of assault and murder, you could still vote, because those are white people crimes. White people did that more often. As a result of this law, South Carolina, the state with more blacks than any state, has less than 6,000 black voters by the end of all this time. This graph right here shows what happened in South Carolina. South Carolina, the Reds, the Republicans. Republicans are in charge. Republicans are in charge. Then the General Amnesty Act happens, and Republicans start going down. Compromise of 1877 happens. Republicans pretty much are gone. And the Democrats, the Redeemers, have taken back over control of the South. It went too far. No, it didn't. All right, the 8-box law. 8-box law, like we said, you got to put your ballot in the right box. But also there's a problem. Because you don't know which box to put your ballot in, there's going to be some ballots that have too many votes in it. And if a ballot box had too many votes, if it was more votes than voters, they would randomly throw votes out. So it'd be like, Republican vote, throw it away. Keep the Democrat, keep the Democrat, keep the Democrat, keep the Democrat, throw away the Republican, keep the Democrat, keep the Democrat, keep. And that's pretty much what happened. Because of that, pretty much the Republicans had no chance of winning. The 8-box law was challenged in court, but it was lost. Eventually it does get overturned and we get rid of it, but it's there for a while. In addition to disenfranchisement, the lives of the freedmen and the poor in the South become much worse with the introduction of a system called sharecropping. Sharecropping is the idea that you don't pay the person that works for you with money, you pay them with a portion of the crop. But you only pay them when the crop comes in. Former freedmen have to work on a farm because the law said they had to. Poor white people, that's pretty much all they did as well. And they are now trapped working on the plantations. Now, this system of sharecropping gives a person a reason to work hard because the more crops you produce, the more crops you're actually going to get at the end of the season, so the more money you're going to make. However, this was also coupled with an idea called the crop lien system. Crop lien system, the word lien means loan. And because you need money to survive until the crop comes in, you got to borrow it. So you're borrowing it with crop lien system. You usually created a contractual agreement where the owner of the land got 70% of the money, or 70% of the crop, and you got 30. If you were educated, you could get a 50-50 deal. And if you happen to own your own animal, which very few did, you could possibly get a 70-30 split. But most of the time, it's you're getting 30% of the crop. The owner of the land who's doing none of the work gets 70% of it. And you end up borrowing so much money, you get so far in debt that you can't ever get out of it. As a result of you being in debt, you weren't allowed legally to leave the property. This worked for white and black people. So you are trapped in debt working on these plantations now pretty much forever. The sharecropping method, like we said, was the crop lien system, trapping people in debt. Workers were responsible for buying their own seeds, tools, everything they needed. So they've got to borrow that money. They actually got to pay for their own shelter, their own clothing, their own food. I mean, all of these needs have to be taken into account, and so they get trapped into debt. The laws at the time required that workers could not leave the property until the debt had been settled. We talked about that just a second ago. And basically, slavery is now back, even with the 13th Amendment. They're not allowed to leave. Another problem for the South was after Reconstruction, Britain and France no longer need the South's cotton. They're buying it from Egypt and from India. In other words, you needed the people to get out of debt said, okay, so we need to plant more cotton because the value has gone down. The problem with planting more cotton is the more cotton you plant, the more common it becomes. The more common something is, the less it is valuable. And so they keep planting more cotton and keep planting more cotton, which just drives the price farther and farther down. So they're like, I need more money, plant cotton. It makes the price go down. Well, crap, the price on cotton drops, so I need to plant more cotton, which makes the price go down even more. So they plant more, which makes the price go down even more. And it creates this horrible loop of price just dropping more and more and more. And the South is extremely poor after the Civil War. Sherman's March, the failure of Confederate money. This law right here is the law of supply and demand. That's what this graph right here represents. So the higher the supply, the lower the demand, and price always follows the demand. So if you got a high supply, demand's gonna be here, price is way down there. If you got a low supply, demand will be up here, and that's where the price is gonna be as well. So the problem with economics is even though you can always find a buyer for your cotton, they kind of get to determine the price based on the supply. Europe is buying from Egypt and India now. Lower demand means lower prices. The South is in trouble. The South has to change. The South has to industrialize. The most obvious answer for the South's need for industry is textiles. We're going to make fabric. We got cotton. Let's make cloth from it. Mills, factories would now turn up and mass produce fabric using the cotton that we already had available. Not only would these mills provide jobs, but it would also cut the price of having to ship all of this cotton to the north or to Europe, which actually did make cotton more profitable. However, as you can see from this picture, one of the main labor forces that is used in the South for the cotton industry is children. So the hope of children, even though education is kind of the here now, most families wanted their children to work. All right, so remember, go back, answer your essential question. Was Reconstruction a success or was it a failure? So you got to give me examples of how it succeeded or how it failed. You must pick a side. You cannot say, yes, it was a success and yes, it was a failure. You have to pick a side. If you say both, you are wrong automatically. Choose a side, have the guts to pick a side, give evidence only for that side. All right, remember, you have a vocabulary quiz. I don't have that posted yet, but it'll be up there soon. Probably by the time you see this video, it will be posted. But if you guys have questions, shoot me an email. I'll help you guys out. See you later.